Can we go from a 1939 St. Louis high school yearbook to secret missions over World War II France? Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. I'm getting a lot of mileage from this particular yearbook, but it just goes to show, dude, there are so many stories that are in these yearbooks, even if they're not directly family. So I did mention a couple of videos ago when I did a whole video regarding John B. LaFata and if he was really, from Carini and related. And it turns out that probably is, and Randazzo definitely was. That was on the census record. But what I mentioned was I want to do videos regarding the stories, since this is 1939, looking at these older yearbooks, and what happened. Did they go to the war, or and whatnot? And so I wasn't able to find anything regarding the other students here, but I was able to find some, I think, on this Carl Lee. I know, could it be more common? But I was able to find what I believe is some information here, and it was quite a journey. So what I was able to find was this. This is an interment document. It's from the National Cemetery Interment Control Forms. And you can see it's a Carl E. Lee, and I'll blow that up, Carl E. Lee Jr. A couple things, jumped out at me. One is the date, September 16th, 1944. That was his date of death, and date of interment is April 4th, 1950. All right, this is what got, all right, World War II returned from overseas. Oh, group burial. Now you think World War II France or Poland, Germany, you think mass graves, really bad. So I had to find out more. I had to find out more. See, family history is also historical research. And it says that he was buried in the same grave with Staff Sergeant Merrill E. Brewer, Tech Sergeant Alphonse A. DeVry, and Second Lieutenant Ernest C. Squara. I know I probably mispronounced that, and I'm going to keep doing it. So I had to find out more information about this group burial. I was able to eventually find him on Find a Grave. The birth is unknown, which is really unfortunate. We got to try to find that. So there was a lot of information here. And it says he served as a first lieutenant on the B-24J, and it gives the number. We know the actual B-24 that he was on. And his unit. This is really important information. The 858th Bomber Squadron, the 492nd Bomber Group. Wow, we know the group. It was the U.S. Army Air Force. I know it says he resided in California prior to the war, but we don't know what happened where he went to college, if it is the same guy. Carl was killed in action when his B-24 was shot down by friendly fire over Charles, France, while flying a carpetbagger night mission to drop supplies to French resistance forces during the war. Whoa! It sucks he was killed in action, but wow, look what he was doing. And then, of course, the reason he was in a group, the reason he is named on a group headstone is because when soldiers were killed in close proximity to each other, they were unable at that time, of course, to identify them separately and interred their remains together in one grave. Well, they died on that mission together, so it kind of seems fitting. What's interesting is that while here it's just 4, Carl, Merrill, Alphonse, and Ernest, it was actually 6 of them. So there's a Bradbury and a Pirtle. So I looked up, they're all on Find a Grave, which is really cool, they're all linked there, but I wanted to put a face, I wanted to know if this Carl Lee was the same guy that's on here. But there's no picture! Alright, this is going to take some work. I've got to find out more about these carpetbaggers, what they were doing, and I've got to find pictures of everybody. So there were some. So here, for example, is Sergeant Merrill Brewer's picture. Very cool. Turns out that, it looks like he was married. They got the same information. James Pirtle, the staff sergeant. George Bradbury. Oh, we got another picture. Again, Ernest C. Squara. I know, I mispronounced it. But he's actually from New York City, so cool. And last, we've got Alphonse DeVry. Now, I think I found a picture of him in a yearbook. I'm not sure. I did find this for him. I found, I'm pretty certain this is him. But I don't know for sure if this is his high school yearbook picture. They didn't give a first name, just a first initial. So You see, see it says A. DeVries. Why would you just give a first initial? Now I found out more about the carpetbaggers, and the carpetbaggers, and the carpetbaggers was a term given to these secret missions that took place during the course of most of 1944. And what they did was they were giving support to Nazi resistance. So here it was called the Lorraine campaign because it was in that part of France. And so you also have probably I think it's the largest American military cemetery overseas in the world is in Lorraine, France, and it's because so many soldiers had died there. All right, so real quick, the Lorraine campaign was the operations of the 3rd U.S. Army in Lorraine during World War II from September 1st through December 18th, 1944. Official U.S. Army campaigns for this period and location are northern France and Rhineland. So this is actually a memorial at the site. And so it's the B-24 Liberator 42-50603. This is the actual crash memorial for this. So all I was doing was going through this yearbook and found out about the soldiers that were killed. And there's a memorial here. So you can see that their names are all right here, which is what we have here, and partly what we have here on this interment document from the United States Army. So how cool is that? These guys were actually involved with the Nazi resistance. And I don't know if they were, because I did a video recently where I actually met somebody here in the valley whose grandfather was part of the Danish Nazi resistance, and he worked for the trains. So he helped get hundreds of Danish Jewish people to the coast so that they can then safely get to neutral Sweden. So that's what the carpetbaggers were doing, providing military support for Nazi resistance. These soldiers in particular were doing it in Lorraine, France. So I had to find out more information about this. I wanted to get pictures to put this. So I was able to find this website, and I'll have it linked in the description. And the wartime experiences of the carpetbaggers and still photos. How lucky was I to find this? Because I had initially gotten this website, and they did have a large amount of pictures here, and they did have some of the actual men and the soldiers that were involved. They didn't have these 6 soldiers I was looking for. But on this, now there's over 200 of these carpetbagger groups, of these bomber groups. So I went through, and so I was familiar with the names enough, and I was able to find this. So this had some information. This has Carl D. Lee and Bradbury here, and so we know that Carl Lee was the co-pilot and the navigator was Bradbury. So they give some information here. The Doyle crew went through their combat crew training school with a 32nd CTS at Davis-Monthan Airfield in Tucson, Arizona in late 1943. They were one of the first crews transferred to the 492nd at Alamogordo. Oh, is that the... Okay, Alamogordo, New Mexico, on 5 January 1944. Their odyssey through the terrible summer of 1944 at North Pickham brought them to Harrington to finish their tour after the Daylight 492nd was disbanded and the designation taken over by the Carpetbaggers. The crew reported to Harrington Sands Bombardier. So Bradbury and Lee flew with the James McLaughlin crew in the friendly fire incident on the night of the 16th of September 1944. So this gave me the information I needed, because right here we see they flew with the James McLaughlin crew. So I can now find, I now knew one of the two, I now knew 2 of the crews that they went with. So I looked up the McLaughlin crew, and there is James McLaughlin. That is the pilot who was on that mission. He was the only one who survived. And luckily enough for me, a picture of the entire crew. And the names are given right here. Alright, so we know that McLaughlin lived, but we have Carl Lee, Bradbury, Swikara, Pirtle, Brewer, DeVries, all the ones that were mentioned in the Find a Grave, and 4 that are on that document. So we know that this is John McLaughlin, and we know that this is we know that these 3 here are Lee, Bradbury, and Swikara. So we didn't have pictures of them here. We have a picture of Sergeant Brewer. Yeah, this is great. And we had a picture of Sukara. But that was it. Now I have a picture of all of them. I don't know who we can pretty much narrow down who everybody is, but how cool is that? So these guys, I can now upload this picture to Find a Grave, and so now everybody can now see and remember these heroes of World War II who gave their lives to resist the Nazi war machine, that they were helping to support the Nazi resistance in France. So very, very cool. So that's how I went from this high school yearbook to secret missions in World War II France. And I got an actual picture of the whole squad. How cool is that? I will say, last, I did look for more people in this yearbook to see if I was related, and look at what I found. I did find a Baptiste Randazzo. Look at this handsome gentleman here, Baptiste Randazzo. I did find out that his family is probably not related to me, and they are not from Carini, at least initially. I don't know. I have to do more research. This Baptiste Randazzo's family was from Giordaniello, which is right near Carini, and my second great-grandmother, Angela Galati, is actually from Giordaniello, so I have the Giordaniello line going back, at least the direct line, I have going back to about 1700. So he may turn out to be related distantly. Chances are Randazzo from Giordaniello, I mean, yeah, he probably is. So there's so much information out there waiting to be discovered just doing family history. This is just from a high school yearbook, and I was able to find out, I don't remember about the carpetbaggers. Maybe that wasn't something that I was taught in school, not something that I learned, but I know about them now, and it's important that these brave men are not forgotten. And this is a way to keep their story alive, and so that people finding them looking up on Find a Grave, instead of going deep into these military records and websites, it could be available right there on Find a Grave for everyone to see, so that they're not forgotten. Hey, that's going to do it for this video. It was a lot of information I was able to find. It was a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to doing more videos like this, where I just go into an old yearbook and see what the stories are, what happened to these particular individuals in that yearbook. So, hey, thanks for watching, and you know what to do now.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.